Hey, everybody, you're listening to WAYO 104.3 FM Rochester. Coming up on the Sound of Tomorrow show, we're going to be talking about masks, which you might have heard of as a thing lately. We're going to be talking about cross-cultural communication, we'll call it. We're going to talk about the Lavender Book, and we're going to talk about the flu. Fascinating things about the flu. But first...
No, Ross, I'm sorry, but absolutely not.
You're not going to let me in?
No!
Just because I'm not wearing a mask.
Look, you knew the rules before you got here.
Okay, I just never thought they'd apply to me. Me, Heather!
Well, yes, they apply to everybody.
Well, it's not right.
Well, you can go somewhere else then.
I don't want to go someplace else. I want to go here.
My place, my rules.
Okay, this is oppression, is what this is. It's literally fascism.
I'm just asking you to put something on your face.
Okay, you know what? It doesn't seem like you're asking.
Well, okay, I'm insisting that you only come in here with a mask on. It seems like the least you can do. If you don't have a mask, I can give you one.
Ugh. You know what? I don't even want to be here.
You are being a complete baby.
Okay, I have already compromised for you. I am wearing pants, after all. Pants, Heather! Isn't that what you've always asked me for years? I mean, all these years you wanted pants. Now I have pants. Happy? See? Give a little.
Oh, Ross, that is nice of you, and I do appreciate it. But honey, when I invited you to my eyes wide shut-esque sexy masquerade party, I made it clear that this is the one time when I considered pants to be optional. I thought you'd be thrilled.
Which is why I wore my favorite tearaways.
You have tearaway pants?
Oh, you know I do.
Oh, get it, girl.
I will.
Not if you don't put a mask on, you won't.
Fine. You win. Okay. I guess liberty fails in the face of Heather Zykowski, champion of oppression.
Ah, that's great. And you have the password?
Fidelio?
Correct.
Okay, just one question still. Can I bring my rifle?
No! And you're wearing tearaway pants and one of those mesh shirts. Where the heck would you put a rifle? Actually, you know what? Never mind. But the answer is still no.
Okay, freedom dies in darkness, Heather. Which is where I put my rifle. It's very dark where my rifle is as well. Oh, we have fun. Hey, everybody, I'm Ross Johnson, your favorite co-host.
And I'm Heather Zykowski, the babe with the power.
We would like to welcome
back to
you.
Another exciting episode of The Sound of Tomorrow, right here on WAYO, LP Rochester. I just started talking there, and then I didn't stop.
That's how you do.
That's how
you do.
That's how we all do.
Hey, Heather. You know what?
Hey, Ross.
I have some interesting... You want to hear about the flu?
I so badly want to hear about the flu. I most definitely want to hear about the flu.
So I've heard things along these lines, but I didn't realize quite the extent. So we had talked about... I think we've mentioned anecdotally when we've talked about other things related to COVID, how the this year's flu incidents are way down, largely as a result of people wearing masks and washing their hands and staying inside. I didn't realize how much. I've got a hodgepodge of numbers. These are from the CDC and a couple of articles. And a Scientific American. So I've got a little bit of a hodgepodge of numbers from like the US and around the world. But basically, according to Greg Poland from the Mayo Clinic, there's like statistically like no there's statistically like almost no flu this year. Now we did have 600 deaths in the US from 2021, which is not nothing, obviously. That's 600 people. But the previous year, which was a low year, like the year before this, the 2019 to 2020 flu season was a a fairly low year. 22,000 people in the United States died of the flu.
Mhm.
Um, and cases, it's down from like millions to like um 2,000 cases,
Wow.
something like that. So again, and the number, I don't want to go through all the numbers just because it's sort of a hodgepodge. And then the current year's numbers are sort of still estimates a little bit because it's so recent, but um, it's just a huge drop off, and I hadn't realized how much. Um, some of the articles I read point out that some of this effect might be cases aren't being reported as much just because there's so much focus on COVID. So there might be a little bit of a drop off just because so much of the medical emphasis has been on COVID that people sort of there maybe somebody had the flu and didn't have a chance to go to the doctor
Mhm.
to get it checked out, or they didn't want to go to the doctor. So there's some of that, but not to the extent of that doesn't account for the huge drop off, which only goes to show somehow I've seen this used to prove that COVID's not real, which is I
Oh,
don't quite understand.
no.
I don't quite understand the logic. I can't even begin to process the logic of that because I've seen sort of like, oh well, here's COVID and COVID's bad and wearing masks is good, and people were like, well, explain to me how come there's no flu all of a sudden, and you're like,
Um,
I'm not even sure what your point is,
uh,
but so
wow.
I can't even speak to that because I'm not sure what the logic is there, but um it it goes to show, we had talked about, I bring this up partially because we had talked last week about um masking and people still wearing masks, and are people going to wear masks in the future.
Mhm.
um if people do, it's probably not the worst thing in the world. I mean, really,
I
this
know.
is a huge, if we didn't have this uh, tremendous counterbalance of this pandemic, we would have saved an awful lot of lives this flu season. And so the one, and I'll throw in one more piece here, and then we can talk about this a little bit if you want. The one potential possible downside of this is there are so few flu cases. So usually, the data from the current flu season goes into creating the vaccine for the next flu season. Because there's so because the flu is so limited this season, and because presumably people will be flinging off their masks and running around licking each other next flu season as we normally do. There's every reason to believe that it will be a normal flu season. Um, Scientists aren't don't feel confident that they have or there's the possibility that scientists who are putting together the data that goes into making the flu shot for the next season
Mhm.
will not have enough data to make a shot that is necessarily as good as it needs to be. That's a possibility. That's a possible downside. You know, overall, I think you still want to root for low flu season, but
Mhm.
so I thought that was interesting.
Wow. So one thing I was going to say was I feel like during any regular flu season, the kind of numbering discrepancy that you bring up because people might not report that they had the flu, I feel like that's got to happen all the time. Because there are people who get the flu but don't get very sick and then they don't go to the doctor
Yeah, I mean, I
and
think
they
there's a
don't do
definite.
anything other than like tell their friends.
Yeah, from what I was reading, I think the sense is that there are those people, and then more people because they were. I don't know what. Sorry, everyone who's listening. I don't know what my dog's doing. Of course, we're recording from home because of COVID, and
Obviously.
my dog's tromping around under my desk for some reason, and I'm not sure
Yes.
what's going on.
Yep. And I'm
It's
definitely
possible.
seeing him behind your chair and stuff like that too.
It's
This
possible
is a
that there's
video worth watching.
it's
There he
possible that
goes.
there's a fly. That could be it. I
Is
don't
he
know.
maybe chasing a fly? All right.
I don't know
He's
what's
a
going
good
on, but
boy. I was good to see
he is a
him.
good boy.
It's been way too long.
But yeah,
But
so interest is again with the stuff about Matt and how it's become so political, and if you wear a mask,
mhm.
obviously you're a communist.
Oh,
um
right. I did see somebody, and I'll admit, I think that both sides feel that way, both sides of the mask debate, because I saw somebody who seemed to be self-identifying as a liberal saying that they like to wear their mask as the opposite of a MAGA hat. So they're definitely wearing a mask to signal something and to make a point.
Yeah.
Me, I guess maybe I am. I know I still probably like when I go out for a walk, I'll probably just throw on a mask for the heck of it because I've grown very accustomed to it. Another side benefit of wearing the masks, I'm sure that you've seen lots of posts like this on social media. People don't tell women to smile on the street.
Oh, I still do.
You still
I just
do.
assume they're not smiling. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably should. You see those
I mean,
those resting not very nice lady eyes.
my neighborhood's not very busy, so even under even normal circumstances, like I don't see a lot of people if I take the dogs for a walk in the
Oh,
morning or
I
whatever. So
see so many.
I'll take a mask with me. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, my feeling is still, you know, even with the, I mean, people are first of all you know, people are acting like this CDC recommendation or suggestion that if you're vaccinated, I mean, it's got a lot of issues. One is that people are just there. I have been in contact with people who are like, yes, I'm just going to lie and pretend I've got vaccinated and blah blah blah, and it's like,
Yep.
okay, so you've got a lot of people who,
Uh-huh.
I mean, we're still over 60% of the country is not vaccinated. So it's a little premature, and we've seen, so among the Yankees, the New York Yankees, all fully vaccinated, but suddenly they're mingling with people. 8 of them got they had the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. 8, now 9, I think, contracted COVID because with that vaccine, it's a 72% efficacy. Statistically, if you throw yourself in enough people who may or may not be vaccinated, um,
Mhm.
that's not outside. I don't want to say it's not outside the realm of possibility. That's becomes a probability at some point that COVID is still going to be flying around. So COVID's still
Mhm.
out there. COVID's still in the wind. We still are at some level of risk now. I think all of the Yankees who got COVID are asymptomatic, which is a side effect of being vaccinated, most likely. So
I
that's
read that one has very mild symptoms. The
yeah.
rest are asymptomatic.
So that's a positive thing. But you have we've had no children vaccinated. We've had almost no teenagers vaccinated.
That's only just rolled out.
And people don't know, and a large number of adults that still, for whatever reason, either because they've had trouble with access or because they are refusing, that have not been
Mhm.
vaccinated. Um, a lot of stores are still requiring it, which I don't blame them. And again, for me, wearing the mask even outside, even though I'm vaccinated at a rate that's with a vaccine that's a little more efficacious than the Johnson & Johnson, it, people don't know that I'm vaccinated.
Right.
So I
Mhm.
feel like you don't, and I know a lot of people with kids who are like, I still can't, like, my kid could still get this, could still track this
Mhm.
around, could still, they could still potentially get sick, they could still potentially spread this around. They're like, that's great that everybody's like, oh, I'm vaccinated, we can all everybody can take off their masks, but they're like, no kids are vaccinated, so
Right.
I still can't take my kids anywhere without a real danger of them getting something from somebody who's pretending they're vaccinated and is not wearing a mask. So
Yeah, and I'll be a little bit redundant in covering that later, but I have a little bit more information on that. And absolutely, like I think I'm gonna keep wearing a mask for many of those same reasons. The thing I do feel really comfortable with now is hanging out at a private home with fully vaccinated adults.
yeah, yeah, I think, and
Like
again, I
I've
think if people are making reasonable decisions about those things, is one thing. If you're pretending to be vaccinated and then
people
running
aren't.
around coughing on
People
people,
aren't. They're not. That's what they're doing. That's what a lot
yeah,
of people are doing.
oh,
I mean,
absolutely. Oh, a lot of people. I mean, I think it's like 45% of people are refusing to get the vaccine. So almost
yeah,
half of everyone you see, like if you went into a group of 100 people who said they were vaccinated, almost
yes,
half of them are lying.
right.
um, you know, so you have to bear that in mind. And the other thing is, I mean, right now there are there have been good reasons to mask. There are still good reasons to mask in a lot of different scenarios. And again, if people are making smart decisions about that, that's they're we've maybe bought ourselves a little leeway in certain circumstances if you're doing the right thing. The other side of this is, as far as the people continuing to wear a mask debate and people screaming at those people or screaming about those people,
Yeah.
um, I mean, my take on that is none of my business. If you if you want to wear a mask in the shower in the house by yourself, none of my business. If you want to wear a
That's
mask
yeah.
walking through the park every day, none of my business. If you want to sit out in an empty field with no people for 10 miles around wearing a mask, none of my business. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what I think
No,
about it. And it's the Freedom Brigade who's like, I need
I
my
know.
liberty. Who's like, you have a piece of cloth on your face? I'm going to chase you.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I would get mad at people without masks who were in stores, for example, because it was clearly posted by all of the doors that you had to have a mask to enter that building.
yeah,
But if someone I mean, that it's kind of like getting angry with someone, which I think this probably does happen, for wearing a cardigan in summer. Like,
right.
they're wearing a cardigan, like, it doesn't you don't have to wear
Oh
a
my God.
cardigan. Nobody's making you
You,
do it.
you know what? I see when it's, you know how in Rochester it'll get to be like 40 out and you'll see people in
Yes.
shorts? And my brain
Yes.
immediately goes, what is wrong with you? It's 40
I
degrees,
know, but I
idiot.
don't
Why are
say
you wearing
it.
shorts? I don't put it on social media. I don't
No.
go yell at
No, I
them.
don't take a big
I just
stance
think,
about it.
I just think that's really dumb. Why are you wearing shorts?
I know. It is that, totally tangential, but it's that funny time in Rochester, New York, where I was going to be outdoors yesterday. I had no idea how to dress because I was looking out my window trying to gauge what other people in the neighborhood were wearing, and it seriously varied from some, like, young 20s girls in little tiny camis and cut off shorts
hmm
to this guy who walked by with, like, a jacket and it looked like a long sleeve shirt and long pants and a big hat. Then there was a girl kind of in full jeans with a flannel and a knit hat, and I'm
hmm
like, "Wow, do we do the cami? Do we do the knit hat?" Like, I am really at a loss about
I,
what
I've
the
had
weather is doing out there.
I've had some of these days where I'm still out there in my parka essentially. Um, I had a day the other day where I had my normal sort of not my heaviest winter jacket, but my like late winter jacket um on, and all the other stuff. And there was a guy outside mowing his lawn in his shorts and no t-shirt. So I mean that's
Yeah,
you know
I don't it's very confusing right now. We don't know
which
what temperature it is.
which I in my head I go that is really dumb, but then I go, you know what? None of my business.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, absolutely. Who knows? Maybe he, like, mows really hard and he was working up a sweat. Doesn't matter. But back to the flu numbers. That's something I keep bringing up, and I've probably brought up on this very program. I do really like how, again, knock wood, but it's been a long time since I've had a cold or flu.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of that had to do with, working from home, being isolated, not seeing anyone, so I couldn't pick up germs, not going
Right.
out to bars, restaurants, clubs, etc. But I also wonder how much of that had to do with just wearing a mask and
Yeah.
not breathing in cold germs, flu germs.
Well, I think it's part of the same continuum. I mean, I think protecting yourself from other people's germs, um which, some people say that all this masking stuff is turning us into a society of people who only see people as vectors for germs and disease. I
Well,
say
I mean,
that's
isn't that
pretty
what
much
they
all they
are?
are.
What?
So I say that's pretty much what people are. So yeah, that's fine with me. That's how I. That's that's really the only way to look at people, as far as I'm concerned. So
There are people who see people as anything other than, like,
right, it's
that
weird to
person's
me. I don't get
probably
it.
filthy.
Yeah,
Huh.
I don't get
That's
it.
interesting.
It's
Huh.
interesting. It's
So,
interesting sociology.
I mean, I'm joking, but I think there are people who probably never owned hand sanitizer
Right.
until the pandemic started. Yeah, I've been a
Well,
long time. I was maybe an early adopter of hand sanitizer, so
and I hope, I mean, at least, and hand sanitizer's handy on the go. There's no substitute
it
for washing
is.
hands. I hope, like, I feel like we are we are past I almost feel like as a society, we're sort of in a post ever learning about anything scenario. I mean, again, you see like, oh, I don't know about this wearing a mask and washing my hands, and then you see flu deaths down to nothing, and then people are like, well, I guess that proves there's no COVID, and you're like, what? I don't know. That's a very clear.
Yeah.
That's a very clear. I
Yeah.
don't understand. I don't even know how to argue with you because I don't even know
Yeah.
what you're saying. Um, so I feel I would like to think that at least, yeah, if we're not wearing masks, which, yeah, I don't know that I love the idea of, a society in which everybody's wearing masks all the time from now on. Like, I don't know if I love that idea either. Again, none of my business if other people do it. I don't care. But at least if we can like wash our hands a little more,
Yeah.
be a little more conscientious in flu season, about the impact of um, being, being walking disease vectors. That's not the worst thing. If we could even just learn to remember that washing our hands is a really good thing to do on a more regular
Yes.
basis. I don't know. Again, I don't know. I think this is sort of we're sort of at a post learning America.
I
We
to an
have,
extent, yeah, I mean, I don't know how many people, to be honest with you, learned to wash their hands from this.
yeah.
I think there's a degree of if you weren't doing it before, you're not doing it now.
I
I do
mean,
like the new
somebody,
polite
maybe
thing that I
kids.
do when maybe kids take it more seriously because for some reason it can be tough to get a kid to wash their hands. I don't know why.
Hmm.
And it feels kind of great to wash your hands.
Yeah, it's fun.
Um, yeah. I do like my new thing that I guess I think is polite when someone is in my car with me.
Mhm.
If we've been in a store, then we go and we get in the car, and then I've got my little bottle of hand sanitizer, and I give them some, and I put some on me, and we wash our little hands in the car.
Yeah,
I know
it's
it's
really
not as good as a full hand washing with soap and water while you sing a song, but it's great on the go like that, and it just makes me feel a little bit better.
well, and it's again, it's recognizing too that yes, this may, maybe I'm someone who's worried about getting sick, maybe I'm not, myself individually. But it's also recognizing that again, we are all carrying this we all are spreading these germs around all the time. Um, we're in sort of a we're in sort of a, particularly if we're in urban area, particularly if we live in urban areas, if we live in high population areas, we're sort of in a situation that, maybe our biology is not 100% attuned to handling. There's probably more of a disease and viral load than we're sort of evolved to handle if we're in that close contact. The planet's got 6 billion people on it. We, as humans, we sort of evolved on a planet with like that maybe topped out at like 100,000. So, to be a little cognizant of that and to recognize that, yeah, maybe I'm someone who gets sick a lot, so this will help me. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I have a pretty good track record of not getting sick. But recognizing that, yeah, I can spread these germs and probably will at some point. I mean, I probably will pick up
Mhm.
something that I will spread to someone who will get very sick. Um, and you don't have to go through life being afraid or terrified of that, but you can sort of recognize like, oh, if I can wash my hands a little more, if I can, cover my mouth a little more, if I can, stay a couple inches further away from people during flu season,
Mhm.
um, you can turn that knob a little bit and maybe just a hair, but that hair, if enough people do it, is going to be enough to save, potentially a significant number of lives and a lot of suffering.
Mhm.
It's all in our hands, Heather. It's
Yep.
all on our
And
hands
even
is
just
where
the
it is.
suffering, like that too, like all the griminess. But I've definitely heard people use the argument, like saying to me, "Oh, well, you and your friends, you're young enough that if you get COVID, you won't die from it." And I'm like, "Well, okay, A, we might. It does not discriminate. B, I, I mean, not die, like not dying, that's great. It's great to
Yeah.
not die. I've also heard of a lot of people who were dreadfully ill. And even if there aren't long-term repercussions, I don't wanna get sick like that.
Well, and which I mean, there are like I'm almost afraid. I'm almost again being, this is easy for me to say because I'm someone who doesn't get sick a whole lot, so I don't think about that in a lot of times in those terms. But I'm almost more afraid of what they're calling the long COVID, which is the maybe you got very sick, maybe you
Yes,
didn't get that sick at all,
right.
but you've got really long term consequences. And a lot of the people
Yep.
who are minimizing COVID, which how you minimize something that has killed 4 million people and counting,
I
um,
have no
that's
idea.
that's an impressive feat of
It's
you
wild.
know mangled
It's
logic. But
wild. Yeah.
that those 4 million people are not. That does not include for every for every person who's died, many 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 more people have gotten very sick with
Yes.
COVID, and many of those people have had long-term consequences that aren't even fully understood yet.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
Oh, yes, absolutely. And whenever I get the like, oh, you and your friends, you're young enough, I bring up that too. Like, we don't even know what long-term consequences there are. How long is long term? Is this lifelong? How does it
yeah,
affect the quality of the rest of someone's life? We don't know. And
yeah,
we won't know, for years. But I would prefer to not give that to somebody, and I would prefer to not have that myself,
agreed.
which I guess isn't all that much of a, or it's a much lesser concern now that I'm all fully vaccinated and whatnot. But you want to run quickly through this thing from NPR that is confused about CDC's latest mask guidance. Here's what we've learned.
All right,
It's another one of those kind of FAQ ones.
sure.
So I'm just going to kind of bop through this a little bit. Was this shift in the guidelines a surprise? Yes. Many leaders in the public health world say they didn't see the loosening of recommended restrictions coming so quickly, and some were dismayed. Dr. Leanna Wen says that the CDC seems to have gone from one extreme of overcaution to the other of basically throwing caution out the window. Other doctors are expressing similar amounts of surprise, but Dr. Marcus Plessia says that all of us who work in public health and in medicine have a very high level of respect and confidence in the Centers for Disease Control. So when they say now's the time and the data suggests this is safe and the effective thing to do, that means a lot to many of us. I I'll tell you honestly, personally, as much as I wanted to like run around with glee when I heard the if you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask and you could just hug everyone at the grocery store. I'll admit I was a little like, I'm no scientist, but that seems hasty.
It does. It does. Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand those misgivings. Um, was the change based on science? CDC says that yes, the decision was based on the current state of the pandemic in the US, along with evidence that vaccines are extremely effective in the real world. The science, in conjunction with all of the epidemiological, I almost got it, data that we have, really says now is the moment. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky told NPR on Thursday. Again, I trust the CDC. I honestly do.
I I think there's well, I mean, yeah. I mean, on the one hand, I guess it's you can create guidelines about where things need to be, the effectiveness of the vaccines, um, without factoring in how these things are going to impact the real world and change people's behavior. So I think it's you know I mean I guess the guidance itself of if you're fully vaccinated, you can gather in
Mm-hmm.
small group. It doesn't take into I guess it doesn't take into account that people are going to do 3 times what they say and still not get vaccinated.
Mm,
I so that's where you know
I know.
that's where I have the issue. And again, we've got an awful lot of people that aren't vaccinated. So yeah, anyway,
I
yeah.
know. I know. Um, Does the CDC's announcement change my local rules? Not automatically. The public health system in the United States is decentralized. CDC doesn't run or oversee and can't overrule your local or state health department. It just provides support, such as partial funding and guidance. You'll still need to check the local rules where you live to see how they've changed, if they have, in response to this week's shift.
Yeah.
And I did see today on some kind of local news channel that it does look like New York is going to be rolling back some of the things like entertainment curfew times,
Hmm.
gatherings, some masking restrictions. Masks will still be required on all forms of public transportation.
Yeah.
And and then the next question, I don't want to jump into this. Well, what about going to the grocery store or the office? Whether you need to wear a mask inside public venues will depend on local mandates and guidelines, as well as the businesses, which make their own operating decisions. So I'm kind of reassured about that. I'm hopeful that Tops, the grocery store I favor, will keep doing as well as they have with the mask mandate. Of course,
You mean
we've
putting the sign
understood
up
at
out front?
least putting the signs up because we've heard enough about how it's not really store employee's job to go and confront people and act as some kind of bouncer and get screamed at or possibly assaulted by someone who doesn't want to follow the rules.
Hmm.
And I agree with that. I guess I've heard arguments about like why can't extra staff be hired for this? I do remember going to Trader Joe's and for a while there they practically had a bouncer,
Yeah.
which was wild to see at the grocery store.
Well, and
But
these stores do have security. I mean, if you're in business, you are in the business of enforcing the law. So I don't have a lot of, for a major chain like that, I don't have a lot of sympathy for them not um, bringing in extra staff who could possibly enforce this. The fact is they don't want to because they don't want to get, they don't want to be in fights with customers. They'd much rather just have people quietly go in and out and not have it be an issue. And I think
yeah,
that's the reason. I don't think it's so much of a resource issue as it is
that's true. They do
we
have
don't
the
want to be getting in
resources. I
fights with
shop there
customers.
enough.
Hmm.
The stuff I was hearing was that cashiers were tasked with confronting customers, and I feel like having the cashiers do it, that's not their job. You're right. They should have hired additional security. I'll put in a comment at the front desk next time I'm there.
There you go.
But I mean, really, in an ideal world, people would see the sign and they would just follow the rules, just like there were shirts and shoes in the store usually.
Hmm.
So that'll be up to the individual establishments to determine their masking rules, and I know I'm going to respect that. Um, so, what about schools? Schools are a bit different from businesses, especially since kids under age 12 are not yet eligible to be vaccinated. So on Friday, it was still unclear what impact this is going to have on teachers, staff, and students in the near term because the CDC hasn't revised its K through 12 school safety guidance yet. But they are starting to get those kids vaccinated, which is interesting, or at least the teens, the teens and the late tweens.
Yeah.
So here's one. This is the one that gets us. How do I know people around me are fully vaccinated? You don't.
Yeah.
The US federal government has declined to pursue the idea of vaccine passports that would verify someone's vaccination status as a way of allowing them to follow different sets of rules. The government is not now, nor will we be supporting a system that requires Americans to carry a credential, says White House Coronavirus Response Coordinator Jeffrey Zients in April. So this is where we get into a lot of the stuff that I guess gives me a lot of misgivings about the restrictions being loosened so dramatically. Because as much as I want to love all of my fellow human beings, we all lie.
Yeah.
We lie when we
Well,
don't want to do something. We lie
right.
when we don't want judgment. We lie when we want to fit in. We lie when we want to do what we want to do because we want to do it.
Well, and again, the tack I'm proceeding with, and my recommendation to anybody is, um, you have to make smart decisions for your own health.
Yep.
And what I would strongly recommend is anyone who's telling you either in social media or your family or outside that, you have to take that mask off right now, or else that, is trying to tell you what to do, um, based on their idea that everything's fine, or that you're wearing a mask as some sort of, political statement that offends them.
Mhm.
You need to make your own decisions, and you need to make smart decisions for yourself and for others, and you need to everything else is, if it's now if it's the CDC or the World Health Organization or your doctor, I'm not saying don't listen to them, but if it's, your uncle on Facebook, eh,
Yeah.
none of his business
Yep.
whether you're wearing a mask or not. That's up to you to
Yep.
decide. So I think all of that, there's so much, people are trying to throw so much dirt into the air to obscure the real issue here, which is what's the healthiest thing for me to do for myself, my family, and my community. And that's anything else is anything else is nonsense. Those are the things you need to
Yeah.
be thinking about. Anything else is
Yep.
garbage.
And I know for me, I think my assumption is going to be that strangers that I don't know, that I can't know if they're vaccinated, I'm probably going to assume they're not.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I'm going to treat them poorly or do anything to them, but I'm going to try to take care of myself and be careful because I don't want to run into somebody, pick up a little COVID from them, and then bring it to someone else somehow
I mean,
or get it myself.
if you run into a stranger, there is a roughly 50% chance that they are not vaccinated. That's,
Right.
you know, and
So, I mean, my thought is like, I trust you, Ross. I trust my friends. And it seems
oh,
like
I'll show you. I got my little I got my little
I
pass
got
and
the
everything.
app on my phone. So next time you see me, if you want to scan my QR code, you're welcome
Yep.
to.
Yep.
I'm glad to. I also took a picture of my card so I can show it to you.
You
So
know,
like
I'll
I
always
trust
scan my
you, I
QR code.
trust our friends who thank you.
I'll always scan
I
your
trust
QR
our
code,
friends
baby.
who oh yeah. Um like I trust my family members who say that they're fully vaccinated, but as far
I
as
don't know.
again situations
I don't know if I trust all my family members that say that, but again,
well, I'm
that's part of
thinking of
that.
the family members who've told me and they definitely are. I trust those. I'm not saying anything more about that.
Yeah.
Um, I feel weird about this new guidance. Can I keep wearing a mask? See, there it is. It's right here in the NPR article. Of course. Not everybody's going to want to shed their mask immediately when Walensky told NPR on Thursday after the announcement. I think it's going to take us a little bit of time to readjust. There will likely be confrontations and side looks in all directions as everyone adjusts to the new guidance and starts to put it into practice. There have already been altercations amongst members of Congress about how best to interpret
Yeah.
the advice that is. So, yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely in for a bit of a tense time. And I think now it's going to be, I think the vibe's going to be weird because I think there are going to be a lot of people who have hated the masks all along, but also haven't gotten vaccinated who are going to be running around making that known.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
I know I'll feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think it's not going to be any worse than what we've seen. I don't think. I mean, I think
Yeah.
people that are being jerks are going to continue to be jerks about it. But you know, again, what I would say is anybody who's telling you you have to take off that mask, none of
No
their
way.
business. None of their business.
And it's none of their business because I usually don't even bother to put on lipstick to go to the grocery store. I'm wearing that mask.
I've seen you at the grocery store. That this was not new from the masks, but
Oh, no, the and it's not even new with the masks, it's just that my mumbling is louder. Oh, no. Did I tell you about Nigel's new name? And I think I did not. So, he has 3 fangs now, but I looked up fangs in Spanish, and it's colmillos. And
oh,
so I was at the store the other day, and I was practicing my Spanish with my mask on. So anybody who speaks Spanish, they just saw a woman going, "Fangs, fangs, fangs, fangs," in line, which no one's surprised to hear that from me.
I think I don't know if that's more or less alarming because well, I mean, I think it just sounds like I'm speaking a different language because I'm you know, because my hobbies tend to be really practical things, really really sort of things that are useful would be useful to people in everyday life. So one
Yeah.
of my hobbies, of course, is various dialects of Middle English. So I'm working on different dialects of Middle English. So I'm working on different pronunciations of things for different Middle English texts that I sort of memorize little pieces of, and then I walk around just saying. So yours is probably scarier because you can identify things. I mean, it probably sounds like I'm just speaking German or something, so maybe people don't worry about
Okay.
it. But so maybe yours is less alarming, but or they think I'm a time traveler. I don't know.
Maybe they do.
Yeah,
I like that though. One last one. Does this mean the pandemic is over? Certainly not.
yeah.
I'll leave it there. I keep saying things like, "Oh, now that this is over and we can go out again." And then I reel myself back and I'm like, "This is not over.
Well, and we need
None
to
of this is
recognize too,
over."
not to be again, not to be negative or alarmist about the progress we've made. Again, there are still parts of the world where this is a real, this is still a real concern. I mean, I don't want to. I don't say this to pick on my Indian friends, but I was talking to a good Indian friend
Mhm.
um, from a major metropolitan area in India who's
Yes.
dealing with this right now, and she was saying that um, last year, like around October, we were, doing our election and having all these rallies. And she thought she was saying, she wouldn't have said this to me at the time, but she was like, at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, how stupid can you be? Middle of this pandemic, having all these election rallies. And then she's like, and here it is, our election time. And what are we doing? The exact same thing.
Mhm.
so, so stupidity, like the pandemic, is is a global phenomenon. And as long as again, as long as there's COVID anywhere, in a significant
Mhm.
amount, there's COVID everywhere. So we need to be cognizant of that too. I mean, we can't or if you're in a region where things have settled down, good, but let's keep it that way.
Mhm. Right, exactly, and that's why whenever I start having these thoughts, I just have to remind myself, like, "It's nice that you can go to a restaurant now if you want to, but just remember, it's not over."
Yeah, I just don't want to be in a, and I'm thrilled about that. I don't want to. God, I'm going to be so mad if we wind up doing this all over again.
I
Um,
know.
you want to talk about something a little more positive?
I do.
I
I
say it's
hope it's that book that you were gonna tell me about.
literally a little more positive, but because the reasons for it are not great. But so as we record this again, since we're doing this at home, we're a day or two off from our normal release day. So, but on the day we're recording this, it's the it's the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Interphobia, and Transphobia, or
Idaho
I
Bit! I had the
Idaho
reminder on my phone this morning.
Idaho Bit. There you go. Which is that a new acronym? Because I don't remember seeing Idaho Bit before. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's been around for long enough that it's on my Google Calendar, and it has
Well, I
been
mean,
for maybe 8, 10 years.
the day, but I don't know if it was always. I feel like the name has changed a little bit, and that's fine. Anyway,
For real, it's in my phone as Idaho Bit.
okay,
So I must have found out about that acronym, when I found out about it however long ago.
all right. Uh, so so here's a thing we're not going to do, though you might expect us to do. We are not going to do all the things, all the reasons that, all the struggles that queer people face in America. Instead, I will tell you about the new Lavender Book, which is a new app. I'm getting this from NBC News. Um, this is it's a new app that maps safe spaces for specifically Black queer people. So this is sort of based on the idea of the old Green Book, which I'm sure you've heard of.
Okay. Yes,
Not this,
absolutely.
not the dumb movie, but the the actual Green Book, which was for Black road trippers during the the Jim Crow area. That would was an actual physical book, of course, because
Mhm.
they didn't have apps as much. There weren't apps as much back then. They were not as much of a thing. So you'd have an
Right,
actual
and it would
playbook that
let
would tell
people
you.
know where they could travel without being hate crimed.
Right. So this is a new crowdsourced. It's essentially a search engine. It launched today again as we're recording this. So and created in collaboration with a group called Out in Tech, which is a nonprofit for LGBTQ plus people who work in the technology sector. It's a crowdsourced search engine that shows users safe and friendly establishments in different locations. You can narrow down your search by whatever you're looking for, and then you can narrow further to look for gender neutral bathrooms, black or trans owned businesses, LGBTQ plus trained staff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, this is specifically for, I would imagine, and I haven't seen this myself, I would imagine this is specifically for, you know, black, queer, it sounds like especially trans, you know, trans people might especially benefit from this. Um, the emphasis is on black, black queer people, and then also indigenous and other people of color. I would
Mhm.
imagine that um I don't know. I would imagine white queer people could be allowed to use it too for whatever, I don't see why not,
I
So
don't
I mean, I
know.
think
I mean,
it's
as a white straight person, something I was thinking is I always like to support businesses that are owned by Black people, owned by queer people, owned by trans
right.
people. And so the thing, if I were, and I don't see how supporting this app could harm it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah. I mean,
so
you
if
don't
I
want
were
to
to download it, when you said it could help you find businesses that maybe you're looking for, see, I think that that's what I would really be like, oh, I could go to that coffee shop, or this one is Black owned and I could go over there.
yeah.
And I would be so into that because it can be, it can be pretty cool to be able to look that stuff up and go like, yeah, supporting the community.
Well, and it's yeah, I'm not gonna, I said I wasn't gonna get negative, so I'm not gonna get into any statistics, but black queer people, that is a particular kind of struggle. Queer people of color in general, black queer people, especially
Mhm.
black trans people, especially, there are some struggles there, and anything that helps people navigate the world more safely. I mean, even just finding a finding a safe place to go pee. I mean, that's
Mhm.
so um that's really fundamental. And the fact that that's not a given for for an awful lot of people is not good. So I think this is a great idea. I mean, again, I haven't looked at it myself. I'm just reading about it. I haven't heard um actual users talk about using it, and it's brand new. It's a I my sense is that it's sort of a growing database kind of thing.
Mhm.
So, it's the kind of thing that if you look at it today, it's probably going to be better tomorrow than it is today, and it's probably going to be better the day after that than it is today. So, but hopefully, I think it's a great idea, and hopefully, it's something that takes off and is usable and just helps people, because really, I just think it's nice, and people
Mhm.
should. I mean, for all the other things that it's good for, I know it's not just this, but like, I am as someone with a little tiny baby bladder. Um,
Yes.
the the bathroom thing is like, it hits home with me in a particular
Mhm.
way, because I'm like, the first thing I do when I go anywhere is scope out the toilets, like, where are the
Oh,
bathrooms
yeah.
here,
Yes.
and just to not have that, to have that be a i- i- but that's a privilege that I can usually find one
Mhm.
where I feel, if not perfectly safe, then reasonably safe.
Yep.
um that is one that just hits home to me so much, of just, and the cruelty of, and it goes beyond trans people. I mean, even in major cities, when you know s- even in cities, when there's no place for homeless people to go to the bathroom.
Mhm.
And then you get arrested if you pee outside, but there's no place to go to the bathroom, things like that. I mean, just the it seems to me not aside from trans issues, but I mean, just trans issues included, it just seems to me it always feels to me like a particularly petty type of cruelty um to fight to keep people out of public restrooms, I
Mhm.
or to limit your public restrooms to only our kind of people. Only certain kinds of people
Right.
can be here. It seems it's so ugly to me. It's just
It
it's
really
ugh.
is.
I hate that. I
And I
don't like to
swear
use the
you
word hate, but
see
I hate
in
that.
I know. I swear you see in other countries, there are municipal public bathrooms maintained by the city. This is true, yes?
I mean, it depends on where you go.
Right. But it does seem like a really good idea to me.
Yeah.
Like, you know how I'm always talking about where I want my tax dollars to go and where I don't want them to go? If
Yeah.
there were, I mean, not that I'm often like frolicking around, well, I'm not frolicking around anywhere now, but I would be so into using some kind of maintained municipal public bathroom.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that would create jobs. There, I think there's plenty of buildings in which this could be put. And it seems like such a great idea to me. Maybe there are cities who have them. Rochester doesn't. But
Yeah.
then,
I
of
mean,
course, my thing would be because in other cities where I've seen them, they are not labeled like this one is for men, this one is for women. It's the kind of situation where there's just like small compartments.
yeah.
And I really like that too. You know, kind of like when you go to a park and there's that building that's just uh, 8 bathrooms,
Yeah.
and the only indicator is whether it's occupied or not.
Mhm.
Like, I like that kind of thing. I can get down with that.
Yeah, it's nice. I don't know. Just let people pee. Give some people a place to
Yes.
pee or poop. I don't care.
Yes.
If you got to poop, you got to poop too. That's not, I don't usually have to poop in public, so
Yes.
that doesn't hit as hard for me. I'm a home pooper. So that's not, I don't have that emotional connection to that issue like I do with the peeing. But
Well, you and I have been on vacation enough that you know I also am one who's like, "Oh, wait, there's a bathroom over there. We should go before we go to our next destination."
oh yeah, I'm always like, I don't really have to pee, but I bet I could squeeze something out just to be safe. Yeah.
Me too. Yep, because I have definitely been visiting a city and I need to use the bathroom, and it's like, where is a bathroom? There's just not one.
Well, even like London, I think London had like pay toilets, but I didn't have any cash. It was all like coins. So we're walking around like our first night in
Mhm.
London. I didn't have any cash. We hadn't gotten any cash yet. Yeah, so I wound up peeing in the park, like on a tree, like, and I was like, I am gonna get arrested in my first night in London.
Ah,
And again, I am, I am as privileged as they come, as about privileged as it's possible to get in terms of public restrooms. I usually have money that I can buy something at the place where they can
mhm.
let me use the bath.
Yep.
I mean what I mean. So I'm not really complaining about me, but even just even just that little bit of
Right.
it again, it drives it home to me. Just the cruelty there. So the point is, you can get this app Lavender Book, and hopefully it's good, and it will help you find more than just
Right.
bathrooms. But
Right.
you know,
Though we
I
are
would literally
obviously
just
quite
use it for
hung up on
bathrooms.
this.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, especially if you were in a different city, I
yeah,
would be the one who would be kind of trying to plan my route, like, here's the restroom here. We can hit these shops and restaurants
yeah,
and have breaks over here. One thing I've learned, I'll tell you this for free. You can just walk into a hotel and use their restroom.
yeah.
No one cares.
If you can
They
find it.
actually, if you can find it, which I'm usually pretty good at, but I learned not too long ago, maybe some years ago, hotels actually want you to come in because they're hoping after you've used the restroom, you might go to their gift shop, you might go to their restaurant, you might stop at their bar. They want you to come in because you might spend some money there. But the thing is, you don't have to. You can just walk in, use the bathroom, wash your hands, walk out.
But again, I gotta say, they want you to walk in.
Yes, and a lot of these are, unfortunately, they've got the picture of the lady and they got the picture of the gent.
They got
They're
the picture
not
of the lady.
usually
They got,
just
and if
the nice
the
room that is just a bathroom.
and if there's a If there's a person experiencing homelessness who looks like they haven't had a place to take a bath in a couple days, do they want that person to come in? Not necessarily.
And
So
during the day, you find one of the side doors.
yeah, there you go. But
Can you tell this hotel thing is not new to me?
yeah,
Yeah,
um,
I usually just go through the side one, I don't go through the lobby.
oh, you can go through the lobby too. You can
Eh,
go through the lobby.
I can go through the lobby. Well, depends. Depends on the star level. There's some of them where they'll be like, "Hmm, what are you doing here?"
Well, anyway, that's our show today. It's all about
So
going to
this
the
has been
bath.
Bathroom Talk
Next week, we're
with the
just going
sound
to
of
tell you all our
tomorrow.
favorite places to pee. So
We know we have them too. I think anybody listening, they're like, "Oh, they're serious. They could do
we
that."
absolutely do. I used to make little notes on my phone, so I could probably
Yes,
just start a
just
we'll
pull
just
it
start a
up.
blog.
I'm ready. Maybe I'll learn something.
All right, this has been our show. Thank you very much. Coming up next, of course, is what, Heather?
The fantastic program Music Matters right here on WAYO LP Rochester. So stay tuned.
Oh, and I forgot to write a thing for after the thing, didn't I? What should we do? Um,
I don't know.
all right, we're just gonna wing it. Ready? Here we go.
I'll try.
Heather, this mask is so
Boss,
hot. Why can't I wear? Why do I have to wear it still?
because I said so.
It's hot though.
It is
It's like a
hot.
chicken. Why is it? I thought I had to wear a COVID mask, but it's one of those old timey sex party masks like you have.
Like I said, it's pretty hot.
It's like Phantom of the Opera, but with feathers. It doesn't make any sense. I don't think this is going to keep anyone from getting sick. I think I got a social disease wearing this mask. I
Don't
don't
you worry about it. You just keep that mask on.
know. All right. We're so stupid.
I know, that's pretty bad.
I like it.